usually he has good questions.
You have questions?
I don't have questions.
We have questions.
I don't have questions.
Yeah,
So we're no different than anyone else.
The main question on the thing, how can you leave your wife in
Isn't that the easiest thing in the world?
The main question.
Isn't that the easiest thing in the world?
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Why? I mean, you're home together all the time and you need a break. Right?
She needs a break.
You need a break, she needs a break, the kids need a break. What's the problem? What is the problem? I don't understand the question. But maybe because I'm married over 50 years.
Just had a break in the mountain.
Huh?
Just the break that everyone was in the mountain.
And you were at work here, then you had to go to the mountains for Shabbos. Now you don't have to come back, you can stay at home. I'm trying to. So you want to start with questions? You want to start with the? It's not up to me. I'm not. I don't have to.
The Rebbe says in the Torah that we go to tzaddikim, Rosh Hashanah. It says tzaddik, the word tzaddikim, not only one tzaddik. The Siddish world goes to the tzaddikim.
Reish Lamed Gimel, yeah.
And the Siddish world is knowing like this. The Litvish world, some go to yeshiva, some don't. So why? What?
I thought it was Torah Reish. Okay.
Why do we go to tzaddikim? Why can't the tzaddik, like this past year Corona, we know it's kedusha from a tzaddik. Why can't where we are, and there's a kibbutz of Eden where we are, so in Yerusha, why do we have to go to the tzaddik? Why can't we be where we are, learn the tzaddik's forum, and have the tzaddik by us?
Listen, I'm over 70. I have sometimes difficulty hearing. So go ahead, say that again, please. Oh, the regular, that's only on the 3 Yom Tov, not Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Right? So let's first understand what it means when you buy the tzaddik or when you draw the tzaddik to you. The Torah says, and you have it in Sefer Malachim, that Elisha is referred to in Tanakh as Elisha Hanavi, yeah, Elisha. And there are times Elisha is written Elisha Isha Lakim. Why the difference? If you take a look at the Navi, where it says Elisha Isha Lakim is when the Talmidim were with him. When he had his Talmidim, the Bnei Anvim, they were with him. When he was by himself, he was called Elisha. Moshe Rabbeinu was told, Lech reid ki shiches amcha, right? Chazal say, Gemara and Brachos, that klum nasati l'chol gedula ela b'shvil Yisrael. The greatness of the tzaddik is because of Am Yisrael. When they're with him, the tzaddik has a greater koyach. When they're not with him, the power of the tzaddik to do what he can do as a tzaddik is diminished. Okay? So that's why you have to go to the tzaddik. Okay, now, the Rebbe says going to tzaddikim. Yeah, you can go to other tzaddikim too. Right? It depends what they promise you. It depends what they're going to do for you. Okay? Depends what they're going to do for you. It's up to you to choose. But it's, excuse me, you can't bring a raya from the Litvaks that some go to the tzaddikim or not. You can't bring that as a raya, right? Because you just can't. They did other things wrong. They made machlokas against the Hasidim or whatnot. So you don't have to worry too much about what the Litvaks, they're great guys. They're beautiful people. They learn, they daven, they're great. but you can't bring a riot because they made mistakes too, right? So let's talk about seriousness, right? The minhag of going to tzaddikim on Rosh Hashanah goes back to Chazal. Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, it's Gemara, that Shabbos, you don't blow the shofar, except if you're in the Bezdin HaGodel. Okay? The Gemara over there says, Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, sheyu toikin b'chol mokon sheyesh Bezdin. Right? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was the head of Klal Yisrael, the tzaddik of the door, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana that if you need to hear shofar on Shabbos, you should go to wherever it is a Bezdin, wherever it is tzaddik, right? So this goes back to the time of Chazal, that they used to gather by the tzaddikim on Rosh Hashanah. Okay? So now, if you want to go, you want to have a reason, a precedent, why we go to the tzaddikim Rosh Hashanah, goes back to Chazal. Right? It's not something new. And the fact is that we need the tefillas of the tzaddikim to help us, to guide us, to teach us what's really important in this life. There are a lot of things we can do, a lot of things, but what's important? Okay? Answered the question?
Live tzaddikim.
Huh?
Live tzaddikim that are alive. The best news.
Well, the Chazal say, it's more in brachos, tzaddikim b'misosim kruyim chayim. Tzaddikim, when they're passed away, they're still called alive, right? And fact remains that it's not so easy to gather by a live tzaddik. Imagine so many millions of Yidden would gather by Reb Chaim Kanievsky, right? How many people would be able to get into it? It doesn't have to be a live tzaddik. It doesn't have to be. It's nice if you can, but if you can't, you can go to the grave of a tzaddik. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Mishnah Berurah brings it one. It's an Indian to go to Kivrei Tzaddikim Erev Rosh Hashanah. That the schus of the tzaddikim should be upon us, that we should be able to do tshuva properly and what we'll have to do on Rosh Hashanah. Okay?
The precedent that you mentioned was live.
Listen, someone who sees a tzaddik, sees him with his eyes, is more likely to be aroused to Hashem. Wow, look at that, the tzaddik, look how beautiful. It's more likely that I would be awakened and I would feel a certain amount of Yirah Shamayim. If I go to a gravesite, what am I going to see there? A nice piece of stone, right? So, of course, if I see a live tzaddik, it's going to affect me and impact me on a greater level, but on a certain level. At the same time, the fact is that those who go to UMAN, for example, there are many tzaddikim among them, and you're going to find the tzaddik to see and to be impressed with. Yankee Meir Shechter is there, and others. You'll find them. They're there too. But if you have good eyes, in the grave of the tzaddik, you can see the greatness of the tzaddik. Rabbi Nachman passed away over 200 years ago. And look at the crowd that he draws Rosh Hashanah. Look at that crowd. See that crowd. Look at these people. Now, I'll agree with you that some of the people you see, you wouldn't want to see. You wouldn't want to look at. You've been there Rosh Hashanah? Yes. And I say every year in my shia there that look at the joy and happiness, the ecstasy that's in the street. Look at that ecstasy. On a number of the people, it's because of ecstasy. Right? That's fact.
29 years ago, we went in the same car together from your house to the airport to UMAN.
Yeah. And I said it then too.
I don't know. Then I don't think you said you saw that.
But there's a lot of things going on in UMAN, right? Some people, it's like Woodstock. Anyone here remember Woodstock? No, you're too young to remember it. But it's a Jewish happening. It's a happening, but it's a Jewish happening. And like Woodstock, you gather the people together. There are you don't know what Woodstock is. Ashrecha. In any gathering of people, you're going to find all sorts of people. So, but they also are Jews, and they also need a ticket. Woodstock, by the way, just to clear up the thing for you, was in, I think, 1969, right? Maybe before some of your parents were born, I don't know. But they made up in the mountains, in the Catskills, in the Yiddish area. They made it a happening where they had a lot of music people, and they had even more drug people. They were all high on drugs and who knows what. There wasn't ecstasy then, it was something else. But they were all high and all crazy. They had a few 100,000 people gather for a weekend of shtus and havolim. But that's what Woodstock was. It's a happening. But you had all kinds of people there. And here you have all kinds of people that come to UMAN. But look, even I come. The Yesod V'Sherish HaAvodah, right, has said, Shat, Tehilas Hashem Yedaber Pi, Yivoch Kavos Hashem Kol Shel Yoidam Voed. So he said, Shat is, he was very modest. He held himself as nothing. He said, Tehilas Hashem Yedaber Pi. If I could sing the praise of Hashem, then certainly Yivorech Kol Boso Shem Kol Shel Yoidam Voed. Every Yid could also sing and praise Hashem. That's what the Yesod V'Sherish HaAvodah said. Right? That's a Gevaldik Madrega that you can see every Yid. Whoever goes there, they do say a kapitel tehillim. They do say something. So that's what helps bring Mashiach. Everyone turns to Hashem. Any questions? Kiva?
You have a question. If the Rebbe was nifter 200 something years ago, right? And now there's a live people to go to. Why is there a big meeting to go to UMAN?
The Rebbe said, come to me, Rosh Hashanah. Okay? Come to me, Rosh Hashanah. This he said very forcefully the last Rosh Hashanah he was alive. So what was he talking about? Come to me there. Those who were there were there. Those who weren't there, he's dying. What's going to be? He said, come to me, Rosh Hashanah. Why? There are tikkunim, rectifications that I can do on Rosh Hashanah that even I cannot do the whole year. What did the tzaddikim do the whole year? They tried to help Klal Yisrael. They tried to, what they call hamtokas hadinim, to mitigate the decrees. There are decrees against us. Look at all the fires, look at all the floods that are happening, right? Look at the Corona, look what it's doing and whatnot. And there are decrees. The tzaddikim tried to daven and to sweeten all these decrees. That's the avodah of the tzaddikim. Now, let me ask you a question. Person is called to court. The district attorney lays out a charge sheet against this person, whatever he did, right? When the district attorney is laying out all these charges, right? If you go to him at the time he's writing up the accusations and explain to him, well, this, forget about this, wasn't part of it. This is not really one of the things he did wrong and whatnot. So that before the charge sheet is written up, at that time, you're already mitigating the decree, right? Okay, fair enough? Right? Rabbeinu Zal said the things he does Rosh Hashanah, he does the first night of Rosh Hashanah, which is before the decrees are written up during the day. Follow? So that Rabbeinu Zal is going prior to the Gzardin and trying then to get you the best deal you can get in the Beis Din Shel Mala before Rosh Hashanah, before the Gzardin comes out. Rabbeinu Zal is there fighting for you even before the problems happen. And even after they happen, the tzaddik is still fighting for you. But imagine the fact that he's really working with the district attorney to mitigate the decrees before Rosh Hashanah happens, before the Gzardin of Rosh Hashanah happens. Right? And I'll bring you a little proof to that. Right? We, every year, have to suffer. Anyone here go out to work? I mean, this is Lakewood, I don't know. Anyone go out to work here or whatever the case might be? But where does that work come from? Adam Rishon, on the first day of creation, ate from the Eitz Hadas. Adam Rishon, the first day of creation, gave us all a very interesting curse. You're going to have to sweat to earn a living, right? That's what Adam Rishon did the first day of creation. When Rabbeinu Zal says, I try and do everything the first night, he's trying to bring us to a state before the sin happened. He's trying to help us get to a state of purity before anyone ever committed a sin. He's working with us the first night of Rosh Hashanah. That's a very powerful concept. And it's there for us to be able to take advantage of if you go to UMAN Rosh Hashanah.
Why can't it be?
Huh?
Can he do his job from there?
Why can't he do the job from here? He could, but as we said earlier, when Elisha, Isha Elikim, when there's Talmidim or with him, then the tzaddik has greater power, koyach, greater power to mitigate the grief. He can do it. He's working for the whole world. Every tzaddik is working for the whole world. And he can do it for you. But when you go to him, you're giving him more koyach to be able to mitigate the decrees at a higher level, at a greater level. So you are contributing to him. And in that sense, what Nosson explains from the Kuta Halachis, what's the big deal of going to Kivrei Tzadikim? It's because at Tzaddik, when you go to his grave, right, you're calling on him, you're giving him a koyach to come down to this world to accept the tefillos that you pray. But when the tzaddik goes down, when he goes back, it's called Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah. It's a descent that helps to go to a greater ascent. And therefore, the tzaddik can go to a much greater level than he was even just now. He comes down, he listens to you, he takes your tefillah, he goes back up, but he can go now to a higher level and he can do more for you. So actually, the tzaddik owes you for coming to him. He owes you. That's what Reb Nosson says in the Kutei Halachos. Right? Right?
How would you fit in lesson 40 in Yonah, where the Rebbe says over there, talks about these sparrows,
Yeah.
and it dafka through the review of people.
You're Makadosh, the Avid. You're Makadosh, all the. So what's the question?
No, I'm saying this is, I'm trying to, we have a shir at night, and some people are trying
I'm
to
around
understand
here.
this
Can you
concept.
translate?
Huh?
How do you translate? But I'm around here. English.
Lakewood.
No. I said the question.
Okay.
We have some people in the shir that are listening now through Zoom, have a very hard time relating to that factor that through us coming to the tzaddik, we are strengthening his what we call power, for a lack of better words.
The Rebbe says in lesson 40 in the Kuta Moran, the second part, he says that somebody who comes to the tzaddik, Rosh Hashanah, should feel the power and the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. You come to a tzaddik, don't forget, in the Rebbe's time when he said this, travel to Eretz Yisrael wasn't so easy. It's like they had corona, they wouldn't let you in, right? Whatever the case is. But at that time, the Rebbe's talking about somebody who comes to a tzaddik Rosh Hashanah should feel the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. Why? Why? He brings the pasuk at the end of Parshas Eikev. Eitomid Eini Hashem Elikecha Bo. The eyes of Hashem are upon Eretz Yisrael. Bereishis Hashanah ad Achar Hashanah. From the beginning of the year to the end of the year. That means Eretz Yisrael is completely under the hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? The eyes of Eretz Yisrael. The eyes of Hashem Kaviyochel are upon Eretz Yisrael. Tomorrow says, Avira de Eretz Yisrael machkim. The ear of Eretz Yisrael brings chokhmah. It's a medrash, and chokhmah ke chokhmah Eretz Yisrael. In Torah Eretz Yisrael, there's a medrash like that. Anyway, the Rebbe says, how could we ever feel that hashgacha while we're here in this world? It says, the greatness of Eretz Yisrael is that Hashem has what's called hisparus. He has pride. He takes great pride in Klal Yisrael. It's called Eretz Yisrael. It's not in the lesson there. It's in lesson 47, the first part. But Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz that receives from Yisrael, from Yaakov Avinu. V'yeshev Yaakov be'eretz, right? It's Yaakov Avinu, it's Tzadikim, Am Yisrael, that gives the koyach to Eretz Yisrael, right? Am Yisrael is what's called Eretz Yisrael because it's an Eretz, a land that receives from Klal Yisrael, from Yisrael. All right? So now the Rebbe says over there in the Torah, what's the greatness of Yisrael? The greatness is that Hashem takes pride in each and every single Jew, right? As you have in Parshas Achrei, Hashoichen itom v'soich tumoisam. Hashem dwells with every Jew, even if they're Tomei. Even if they're Tomei, Hashem dwells with every single Jew, right? The Shekhinah is with every single Jew, even in the worst circumstances, right? Why? Because Hashem takes tremendous pride in Am Yisrael. Gracious, the Pasuk says gracious, the Medrash says right away, gracious, Bishvil Yisrael Shenikru gracious. Because of the Jewish nation that are called gracious, they have it in the Haftarah from Parshas Matos Masai, from Parshas Pinchas, right? In the first of the 3 weeks, Kodesh Yisrael Hashem, gracious to us. Am Yisrael is called gracious, and Hashem takes pride. He created the entire world because of the pride he's going to take with every single Jew. Now, when can you see this pride? When can you see this pride? You walk into a shul in the morning, you see 10 people that have woken up in the morning before they go out to work. It's a four-letter word. You're allowed to use it here? Yeah? Okay. It's they go out to work, but first thing, they go to shul, they daven. Wouldn't you take pride in such a people? They set aside time for davening. They spend extra money on kashrus. They spend a lot of extra money on tuition for their children. A Shabbos, it costs them a fortune and whatnot. A Yid does what a Yid does. Wouldn't you take pride in such a people? Right? That's what the Yid does. That's what the Yid. I had one Purim I remember a guy walked into shul in the morning. He was drunk the whole night. He smelled like a distillery. And yet he was there in time for davening. I remember one of the guys remarking, look at Am Yisrael. Look how beautiful. They're dead drunk and they come in time for davening in the morning. B'kitzur, what you have with Am Yisrael is a certain pride that doesn't exist else. When can you see the pride? Especially, it shows up much more when there's a lot of people gathered to be able to be by the tzaddik Rosh Hashanah. The tzaddik is working to draw the people close to Hashem. He's working to bring them and to explain to them the greatness of Hashem, how you could attach yourself to Hashem, how you as an individual could be mamish makusha, dovik in Hashem. Right? The tzaddik does that with his teachings. Therefore, the tzaddik is revealing the pride of Am Yisrael. The more people that get together, the greater the pride that Hashem has in Am Yisrael. That's what it says, that list.
Someone asked the question, how's it about to get together with 10, 20, 30,000 people by the Kloiz? Such a schlecht. Why does it have to be a normal?
The Kloiz never said, come to me, Rosh Hashanah. That's it. It's a question of emunah. You either believe there's something there, and you have to believe it now. You want to tell me this 30, 40 years ago, I could say, okay, I understand your question. But today, the amount of people and the types of people that come, every part of Judaism is there. From Yerushalayim, the real Getichte Yerushalayim, until many people who aren't even from. But they come there for a reason. Rabbi Nachman is drawing them, right? You have to say that there's something that Rabbi Nachman said, come to me, Rosh Hashanah. That means something.
Some will say that Mecca has millions of people too. So what?
But Muhammad didn't say, come to me. Muhammad had a stable in Yerushalayim called the Beis HaMikdash, right? That's the Koisel. That's where his horse went up to heaven, right?
The fact that they're being drawn there is not a riot.
No, but the fact that they're awakening from their Jewish roots, from their depth, from the sleep that they're in, and they're saying something, Rabbi Nachman, and they're awakening to Hashem, it has to mean something. It has to. The Arabs do whatever they do, the Vatican, whatever, right? Buddhists, let them do whatever they want. That's their business, right? We are Jews. We have to try and come close to Hashem. The world was created for us to come close to Hashem. What's the role of a tzaddik? Why do you need it in between? We're not Catholicism. We're not Christianity. What do we need to go between? Right? It's because you, on your own, would never be able to understand Hashem. The tzaddik has risen above all the olam hazeh that there is. The tzaddik is above materialism. He broke all the taivas, all the midas rois, right? He's close to Hashem. He, Moshe Rabbeinu, could go up to heaven and receive the Torah. Not even Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov could do that. Ain't Koren Ovois Elo L'Shloisha. The Ovois HaKdoshim of Am Yisrael, and yet only Moshe Rabbeinu can go up to heaven and bring down the Torah. Only the koyach of a tzaddik, who now, because the Torah is down by us, these tzaddikim now have the koyach to bring us close to Hashem. And that's what the fact that we go to UMAN is for that reason, to come close to Hashem.
Why go to Nachman? That's what my mortgage said.
Go to Itchimeh. I'm not going to argue with you. Rabbi Nachman said, come to me, Rosh Hashanah. If Itchimeh said it, you go listen to Itchimeh. Right? I don't know if he said it, but if he said it, he's wrong. But that's beside the point. Somebody is not a Breslover. Listen, I told the guys earlier, I'm a little bit hard of hearing, so you have to speak loud and clear. Yeah. Let him go to Rabbi Nachman.
Why?
Why? Because Rabbi Nachman said, "Come to me, Rosh Hashanah," and I can do things on Rosh Hashanah that even I can't do the whole year. Is that Rebbe said that?
The other Rebbe, who's asked him, should I come? He said, yes. That means he said he should come. He has a koyach to go help. So
Let's see. Okay. So let's see what that Rebbe can do. Let's see what Rabbi Nachman can do. Rabbi Nachman is dead to 210 years, and he's still telling people how to come close to Hashem, and people are listening. People are listening today to Rabbi Nachman, which it's amazing how the man's gone 210 years. Look at the power that he has to reach all corners of the earth. Look at it.
but that person's so dead up and he's
But why him? But it's not Reb Shimon.
Let him feel it. Huh?
Why not Reb Shimon by the
Reb Shimon ben Yochai didn't say, "Come to me, Rosh
Okay,
Hashanah."
how do you know Rav Nachman said?
Reb Nosson wrote. Reb Nosson wrote it down. Reb Nosson wrote down whatever Rabbi Nachman said. If Rabbi Nachman didn't say it, he wouldn't have written it down. He wrote down, Rabbi Nachman said, "Come to me." In Yemei Ma'anad, he explains, I realized that the Rebbe emphasized coming to me Rosh Hashanah, the last Rosh Hashanah that he was alive. What is that? That's Reb Nosson's understanding. Yeah, okay, if you don't believe in Reb Nosson, then maybe don't go. But the fact is, everything we have today from Rabbi Nachman is only because of Reb Nosson. Because Reb Nosson was the Mekabel, Reb Nosson was the Yehoshua to Moshe Rabbeinu. Reb Nosson was the Yehoshua to Rabbi Nachman. And he received whatever he received, right? There's a Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan heard someone say something, Rabbi Loza, his Talmud, it's Gemara in Yevomus. He heard Rabbi Yochanan, he said something that Rabbi Yochanan said, and he didn't repeat it in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. He didn't repeat it. Rabbi Yochanan was very makbid. Gemara asks why. Because whenever you say something in the name of a tzaddik, so even after he passes away, he repeats those words in the keva. Right? There's a whole marsha on that. He explains how it happens. So why not? But the kitzur, right? So Rabbi Yochanan was makbid that Rabbi Loza didn't say it in his name. One of the other Talmidim said, Rabbi Yochanan, everybody knows that Rabbi Loza is your Talmud, and anything that Rabbi Loza says is in your name. How could you feel bad? Rabbi Yochanan was a piece, right? Anything that Rabbi Nosson writes, it's because of Rabbi Nachman. And because of he says it in the name of Rabbi Nachman, and that's what it is. If you don't believe it, don't go.
But if one connects to his Rebbe the whole year,
Yeah.
the way to further the connection is being Rosh Hashanah. He should be there Rosh Hashanah also to connect it. And Rosh Hashanah he runs away and goes to Rabbi Nachman, so he's not connecting to that side of things. Okay. Dan,
Well, my opinion, go to Rabbi Nachman. Right? Could this Rebbe do what Rabbi Nachman did?
How do we know what Rav Nachman did?
No, he can't do, but
How do you know? It's 210 years after he passed away, Rudu Shoma, right? 210 years. And somehow his words are really effective.
How do you know that?
The Kesar once asked Rabbi Yeshua. He said to him, I'm better than Moshe Rabbeinu because I have decrees. I decree something and they listen to me. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu is not around. What can he do? Right? Rabbi Yeshua said, make a gezerah that nobody lights a fire in the city for 3 days. He made a decree. Right? At the end of the 3 days, Rabbi Yeshua took the Kesar out to the mountain. He said, look at the city of Rome. And he saw smoke coming up from a house. Kesar went down there. What happened here? I decreed there should be no fires. He says, I couldn't help it. My wife was sick. And I had to heat up water and things for her. So Rabbi Yeshua said to him, Moshe Rabbeinu decreed, don't light a fire in your house, Rosh Hashanah. This is over 1,000 years ago. And people don't light the fire in their house on Shabbos. And you decree for 3 days don't light a fire, and they're ready to broke it. Right? How do you know what the tzaddik does? Moshe Rabbeinu gave us a Torah, we still fulfill it. It's called Torah's Moshe. Zichru Torah's Moshe Avdi. Right? It's Torah's Moshe. But every tzaddik through the generations gave us something. Rashi, Tosfos, the Rishonim, the Achronim, right? All of them. They all gave us something. We listened to it. Beis Yosef, Shulchan Aruch, Ramah, right? We have all of this, and we follow it through. Rabbi Nachman spoke 210 years ago. Look at the amount of people today that are following Rabbi Nachman's teachings. Just take a look. Where? From where?
More than a binding of
Huh?
millions of satmas. Rabbi turned the satma.
Yeah. Do you know that there's a whole, in Inman Road is like 10 breast of shuls. You know that? Inman Road, right?
Not exaggeration.
No. Yeah. Secondly, they have Chabad has the largest Hasidus in the world, probably, right? They're all Chabad. Wherever they go, you can find a Jew, right? You can find Chabad and Coca-Cola, right? Wherever you go in the world, it's there. But as much as they are there, right? But what teachings are the ones that are drawing the people closer to Hashem today? Today, right? There are a lot of big Russian yeshivas today, beautiful Russian yeshivas, wonderful tzaddikim, mamash, incredible tzaddikim. Right? They're all there. They're all there to help Klal Yisrael come close to Hashem. All of them are there, right? But the impact that Rabbi Nachman has from 210 years ago till today, nobody has.
It wasn't always like that. It wasn't always that.
No, it wasn't always that way.
Yes, past 50 years, when you go to Gay or Satmar or all other Chassidim, they win everybody, all the Chassidim, Satmar Chassidim, what the Satmar Jewish island. So you can't say that 200,000 people, it's about 30 years old. What happened before that?
Okay, I could answer that very simple.
One more question. You see, even big tzaddikim in Breslau didn't go till, let's say, didn't go till
The last 2-3 weeks.
What's Pshavna Zazah?
But you have to ask from Yankim Shechter what he did and what he didn't do. Right?
And he's
You have to ask Rabbi Yankim Meir why he didn't go. I had that same question. Okay? I know Rabbi Yankim Meir for 50 years. I know him, and he's a great guy, incredible guy, right? But you have to ask him the question why he did or didn't do that, right? You'll have to, why he did, I don't know why he did it. That's it. But as far as all the other tzaddik, first of all, Rabbi Nachman, there was a lot of machlokes against him, right? A lot. And a lot of people,
the brothers were against Yosef Atzav also.
right, thank you.
Against Chabad, there was also Machlokes.
Yeah, okay, there's machlokes are always over, We had those guys, Dasan Vavirim, way back. The Gemara says, wherever you see Nitzim v'Nitzovim, it's Dasan Vavirim. And the Svarim bring that's the Nitzotzos come back every year, wherever there's machlokes. Dasan and Vavirim are included in that machlokes. But whatever the case is, you have all these tzaddikim. You have, Rabbi Nachman said, take a look at all these chassidim. Almost all of them go to any chassidus. What you have, the chassidim, are a natural growth from parent to child. Almost all those chassidim are parent to child, right? They were born ger, they remain ger. They were born vishnitz, bells, chatzaleh. The only ones that are not that way are Chabad and Breslov. Chabad goes out all over the world. They have shlichim. They take over the armory in New York every year. They make kinus of all the shlichim, thousands of them, right? They're all over the world. Right? But they go out and bring people in. Breslov, there's almost nobody doing that.
Why?
People come to Breslov automatically, they're drawn to it. What happened? Well, Rabbi Nachman speaks to me. You study Rabbi Nachman, hey, yeah, this makes sense. I should do this. Who tells you to speak to Hashem every day? Or let me ask you a different question. What was tefillah before the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah made up the Siddur? It's only 2,000 years to Siddur. But Avram Tiken Shachris, what do you think? There was no Shmoneh Esrei. That was done by the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. Yitzchok Tiken Mincha. Yaakov Tiken Ma'ariv. Right? The tzaddikim, all the generations daven to Hashem. What did they daven? He exploited this. Right? Who speaks about exploiting this more than Rabbi Nachman? He's going back, bringing us back to the Ovois, to the tzaddikim, how it all started. He's bringing you, he's speaking to you, he's telling you, you have a heart. Open it up before Hashem. Open it up before Hashem. Speak to him every day. Make your connection. Make your connection to Hashem. Nobody speaks like Rabbi Nachman. Simcha, joy. It's all Hasidus. Started with the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Nachman's great-grandfather. Right? But who stresses it as much as Rabbi Nachman?
A lot of students.
Yes, they all learn the Kutamran. Yeah.
I don't have money for a ticket. What should I do?
Huh?
I don't have money for a ticket. I don't have money for a ticket.
Neither do I.
So how do you go?
Huh?
Secret?
There's a guy upstairs that listens to tefillas. All right? If you have his boyatus and you want to go, you'll find the money somehow. Right? The Rebbe said, "Samir that Canaan is delayed. Nobody ever lost because of me." Right? I could testify now. Now it's kind of easy. You can have permission, you have a visa, you go to Ukraine, you go to Kiev, you go to UMAN. No problem. I was there in the days when you couldn't do that. You had to get a visa to Moscow, to Kiev, and then you wouldn't get a visa to UMAN. You had to sneak in, you had to do a lot of things. It was very difficult to go. I went 8 times before they opened the borders. 8 times, 8 trips. I never had a penny for any trip. I borrowed the money, I came back, the money came, I was able to pay back. Every single trip. Now, the borders are open, I still don't have money. Baruch Hashem, I have a big magnet in my office. It reads like this. I started off with nothing, and I still have most of it. Right? That's what the magnet reads. I started off with nothing, and I still have most of it. The difference in breadth of research is that from the first nothing till today's nothing, over $10 million went out to print Rabbi Nachman's Sforim. But I started off with nothing. I still have nothing, but I still go to UMAN, huh?
Isn't that what Chabad does?
I don't know what Chabad does.
They're out there with shluchim. This is what you do. Shluchim.
Yeah, Mekara.
Shluchim through paper. Not this thing.
Okay, I'm not out there telling people buy my book.
Why did it come
I'm not. Right? People buy the book. They take it off the shelf. I got a letter once from a place called Window Rock, Arizona. You ever hear of it? Okay. I had to look it up on the map. It's on the border between Arizona and New Mexico. It's in the middle of the Navajo Indian tribe. But they bought Rabbi Nachman's books there because the guy wrote to me for them. Right? How's that? Right? I don't think Chabad has a guy out there in Window Rock either.
What about the Japanese couple?
Huh?
What about the Japanese couple that took you out for lunch once?
No, that was Korean.
Korean, sorry.
I want to know, why does the tikkun on Rosh Hashanah work stronger than during the year?
Why?
Does the tikkun, the Rebbe says, no one understands my Rosh Hashanah, and you have to believe. It says, you got to believe in The Ganzen is Battles. What's Pshat in such a thing?
You ever hear of the Chumash from Rashi?
Yeah.
Okay. Rashi brings this Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, but Rashi brings it. He says, "Mereishis Hashanah ad Achar Hashanah," right? From the beginning of the year, it's nigzer what's going to happen by the end of the year. Okay, so what it says is that Chavtes Elul, whatever happens then, is already decreed on Rosh Hashanah. Why Rosh Hashanah? Because everything that's going to happen during the year is only going to happen because of what happened to Rosh Hashanah. And you're taking the year at the beginning of the year, and you're trying to mitigate all the decrees at the beginning. Catch cancer when it first starts, you got a better chance of surviving than if you catch it when it's in stage 4, right? That's why Rosh Hashanah. Very simple. Chumash Rashi.
Well, why now it's kind of the whole 50,000 people, 100 for the past 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years. Before that, he said this, but this, all the rest of us could have said, I'm going to do this, but this, not. The Rebbe will make sure I get it. There's thousands of vessels of Chassidim right in the world. So why couldn't they get in before it opened up the borders? Why
couldn't they get to UMAN?
Yeah.
Then there's something called the decree from Shemayim, Xeris, right? Why was 6 million gone in the Holocaust? Right? Why did that happen? How could that happen? How could Hashem do it to us? Go back 100 years before that. The decrees from the Russian Tsar. The Jews have to go to the army. The Jews have to study secular education. That's what brought the Jewish nation to the way it is today, right? What happened during the time of the Baal Shem Tov? They ever heard of Khmelnytsky massacres in the 1600s, right? What happened before that? The Spanish Inquisition, right, in the 1400s. What happened then? What happened to the Crusades, right? There are exeris. There are times that you can do this, times you can't do this. This is what Hashem does. This is Xera, right? The Gemara even talks about as far as rain is concerned. There's sometimes they shonim ketikunah. There are times that the rain comes regular, and there are times the rain does not come regular. It's a decree from Shemayim. Last year, 2,500 people came to UMAN Rosh Hashanah. Right? The year before there was 70,000. Why? The borders were closed. Why? There's someone called Hashem who makes a Xera. And you have to understand that Xera's happened. That's why it happened. Right?
And not all people try to get in there. They don't even want to try.
There were a lot of people, thousands that tried.
Now
They
it's
didn't
an
get it.
attraction. Now it became an attraction.
So I said, there's a Woodstock. You heard of Woodstock? We mentioned it before. There's a happening. There are some people who go there because the Rebbe said, come. People who go there to do tshuva. The Rebbe said, under the vision, Rosh Hashanah, v'bamir erev Rosh Hashanah. Other tzaddikim in his time would like to have a Rosh Hashanah like we had by the Rebbe, erev Rosh Hashanah. Do you ever see what goes on by the Tzion? Were you ever there? No. So now try it just to find out what it's like, right? The whole day, erev Rosh Hashanah, you stand by the Tzion, you see people davening and saying Tillim and davening and crying out to Hashem and davening. The whole erev Rosh Hashanah. Do you do that here? Do you do that here?
No, but you see.
Do you do that here?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
No, it's true. You see the other people also. People go to the dentist.
Yeah, you're there for an hour, so when they walk away, they're there a whole day. There are people there a whole day.
Somebody goes for 20 minutes, an hour, whatever, max an hour.
Yeah.
And then he goes away.
Yeah, but you go there, you'll find people who are there for hours. I have akpada on a lot of it, because a lot of the guys go to the Tzion and they feel that they're the worst person in the world, so they stay by the Tzion. You can't get to it because they're all there. It's too crowded. You have to pay a football player, push yourself in, like they had a guy called the refrigerator, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago, a 400-pound guy. You gotta play the game, It's very hard. I don't do it anymore. I have to tell you, I'm only there for a short time because I'm 76. Last year I was 75, whatever, but I get older and there's more pains and aches, so I don't fight like I used to. But I fought.
Like the only two cities that the Rebbe is on by Chaim, the Berditchev'r Kloiz, right? And we see that these two Chassidus have a lot of Berditchev'r Kloiz. You have a lot of Mishugrim in both Chassidus. You
Yeah.
have the Nanachs in Dustin, and you have the Chabadskes, the Meshachis. Why is Breslev attracting? Why do they have the Nanachs? Well, what's the whole
A friend of mine explained it this way once. He said, Breslev is the most normal thing. Every Meshuggah in the world sees it, it's a salvation. So they all come.
So
Actually, he's right.
the Berditchev the same thing.
Let them say it, whatever.
You know, if you're a little off, you walk into something shield,
You'll find people.
you find a
that-
door out.
So Berditchev owned. So
That's
why
the point.
Breslev behind Berditchev? Why do you want me to check the Berditchev?
On every light, you're gonna see a lot of flies, right?
Maybe I should go to the Berditchev. Maybe I should go to the
Yeah,
Berditchev.
like moths,
Check it out.
like a moth, they come. Whatever.
You study both and make a conclusion.
Questions?
I knew Rav Nosson didn't write everything on his own.
How come?
I knew Rav Nosson didn't write everything on his own.
I don't. I believe that what Rav Nosson wrote is emes, and he wrote that what the Rebbe said is what the Rebbe said. Yeah, you can have that.
Good imagination.
Anybody, yeah, I say Yeshua, how do we know that he was Makabel Torah from Moshe? Do you know?
I don't.
You don't know. Exactly. That's exactly it. Huh? I can't hear you, I'm sorry. The Rebbe wanted Adam for Tikkun HaKol.
Everything else.
No, he wanted you to understand that he made a promise, and therefore he's going to have to stand by his promise. He's going to have to stand by it.
Rav Nosson was made on it. The Rebbe was made on Rav Nosson. The Imloi Nussen.
Yeah, but if you didn't have Rav Nosson write it, you wouldn't know that.
What is
His question is good. How do you know?
Rebbe verbally said
Huh?
it, man.
The Rebbe said it. Rav Nosson wrote it down. But how do you know? How do you know? It's called Emunas
Yeah,
Chachomim.
but the Torah, there was a Maseret from a public statement. Here is a Maseret from.
From Rav Nachman to Rav Nosson.
The Torah was in front, it couldn't have been denied because it was in front of so many people. So one guy couldn't have walked out and said, "You heard what just happened?" And oh, come on, cut it out.
Right.
But
But Rav Nosson was in public by the other Talmidim of Breslev, and nobody contradicted what Rav Nosson said.
About Rosh Hashanah.
Huh?
About Rosh Hashanah was.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
About Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
Other Talmidim didn't.
They didn't all hold it, they were sure. I said, we know the whole story. But
He needed to rally the troops after the Rebbe was nifter. Rav Nosson needed to, rally the troops.
yeah.
Why the other Talmidim didn't also?
In Avner Basel, there's a whole 10, 15 pages about Rav Nosson's discoveries, right? And over there it says that Rav Nosson, when he came to the Rebbe, he said, it says, whatever seichel I had, I put it completely aside. If I heard something from the Rebbe, I took a piece of seichel for myself. I heard another thing, I added to that seichel. He said his entire seichel was completely the Rebbe, whereas the other tzaddikim, and they were tzaddikim, but they didn't have that madrega. They didn't put themselves entirely in the Rebbe's hands.
The other Talmidim.
The other Talmidim.
There's a long thing that
It's in the Avner
there's a
Basel.
long thing that he promised that if you come to his country, you should.
No, he didn't say come to this cave of Rosh Hashanah. He said, if you come to my cave and say the 10 chapters of Tillim and give a fruit of tzedakah, I will take you out of Shul Tachlis. Right? Nothing to do with Rosh Hashanah. Nothing to do with Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is a separate thing altogether. You come to me Rosh Hashanah. Then you're giving koyach to the tzaddik to be able to do whatever we can to come to
The
Klaiz.
people of Shmuel Isaac were also for going.
Huh?
He's asking the people at Shmuel Isaac.
Yeah.
They were.
Alle gehalten von Rosh Hashanah, so it says that, and it doesn't say that in Sichus V'Sipur. From a remember of Nachman. No. Huh? They were there. There was a fight over that. Yeah, because the others wanted something different. Rav Nosson knew what the Rebbe said. He said we have to do it this way. Eventually, Rav Nosson walked out of the base measures. You're not even listening, so it doesn't make a difference. Go ahead, next. What about
Who said those words?
the Rebbe?
Now I've seen miserable people that were there in a whole year. That were miserable.
They were miserable before us.
Okay, but the bottom line is they were there Rosh Hashanah. Now,
Yeah.
why
It
is
says
it
Roy Lahem L'Smoyach. It's fit for them to be happy the whole year.
Anyone is royal in the smile. What's the words? Explain the words. This is a song saying. I mean, I've danced that song a million times.
It's a
What?
song? I never heard that song. I never heard that.
I gotta play it.
What can I tell you? I'm from the old guard.
No, so what
All
does that mean?
this is no. Rebbe said, whoever is by me, you should be happy. It's fit for him to be happy the entire year. No matter what happens, he should be able to find simcha during the year. Right? There are a lot of people that don't feel the simcha. The Rebbe brings the Sefer Amidus. He says, Derech HaBaldovo Lahagdil Es Hatzar. The Baldova has a way to make the aggravation even worse than it really is. He also says, Derech Odom Limshech Acha Atzvus. It's natural for a person to follow depression, right? The Rebbe said you should be happy the entire year, that any time during the year, if you're having trouble, remember that you were at an UMAN Rosh Hashanah and you have a reason to be happy, despite everything that's happened to you during the year. Despite everything. That's what it means.
Why does it have to be a yearly occurrence? Why can't it be once in a lifetime?
Well, Rosh Hashanah, so if the Rebbe said, come to me, Rosh Hashanah.
What's the steps? There's Rosh Hashanah, there's Rosh Hashanah, and then there's the kibbutz. What's the
Kibbutz is Rosh Hashanah.
So what's
It's everything.
Is
All the Talmidim, they wasn't there in Rosh Hashanah. Only Erev Rosh Hashanah. I think the Talmidim, they wasn't there in Rosh Hashanah. They didn't went to the Tzien Rosh Hashanah.
They didn't go to the Tzien itself on Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
There was a conflict, where you have 2 Yidden, you have 3 opinions, right? So there were those who went and those who didn't, right? Polish, mostly the Ukrainian Yidden did not go to the Tzien Rosh Hashanah, most of them, right? The Polish Yidden started coming. They went to the Tzien Rosh Hashanah for the simple reason they live in Poland. They're not there the whole year. So they took advantage of every second that they were there to go to the Tzien. Whereas the Ukrainian were there, it's Rosh Hashanah, you don't have to go to the Tzien itself. Erev Rosh Hashanah, everybody said.
But the Indian was Rosh Hashanah.
What do they do with the word? It says, "Kim to me Rosh Hashanah."
Hashanah, right.
It says, "Kim to me Rosh Hashanah."
So they were there, they gathered in shul, that was the kibbutz.
So he said, "Erev Rosh Hashanah, not Rosh Hashanah. Erev Rosh Hashanah is Erev Rosh Hashanah. Then you have Rosh Hashanah." So exactly.
not being
Right.
Kim to me.
He's
They
asking
were
the
there
people,
by the collection of Jews, the gathering of Jews, Rosh Hashanah. They were there for that. There were those who only came the morning of Rosh Hashanah, those who lived in nearby towns, like Teplik and other places nearby. So they would say slichas in their hometown, and they would come every Rosh Hashanah to UMAN. And the Sekanim in UMAN at that time said, that's not what the Rebbe really meant. He meant be the Erev Rosh
when is the
Hashanah for
taken?
slichas.
Is that Rosh Hashanah or
The
Rosh
taken
Hashanah?
is Rosh Hashanah.
So what's Erev Rosh Hashanah?
It's the day before Rosh
No.
Hashanah. It is, but you can't travel there on Rosh Hashanah, can you?
So what's
Are you allowed to travel there?
what's
Rosh Hashanah?
Chevres?
Huh?
What's the Indian to be Chevres?
It's Chobris because that was when the real pachad of Rosh Hashanah, you begin to feel it. And that's all.
So the main thing is Rosh Hashanah.
Main thing is
But
Rosh
you
Hashanah.
said earlier, Rabbi, Kramer, that The Rebbe says that ich can aufstehen Rosh Hashanah, can andere tzaddikim.
Weil andere wollen gewünschen bei sehr Rosh Hashanah, wie bei mir Rosh Hashanah.
Which means I should be there Rosh
Ich
Hashanah.
bin Rosh Hashanah.
So that's his question. What's the line?
What's the stage? Like, what ABs? What's the highest? Like Rosh Hashanah by the
I get to UMAN.
Rosh
Now,
Hashanah with the kibbutz on the night of Rosh Hashanah. Right? That's boring, right? Rosh Hashanah. But in order to feel and to accept and realize the power of Rosh Hashanah, you should be there Erev Rosh Hashanah. Don't show up an hour before Shkia.
And where do you supposed to down? Are you supposed to down in the Kloiz or by the Tzir?
You can daven.
Or on the other side of Pushkin or something? You have to.
It's a big question. It would be nice if we could all daven in 1 million. 70,000 people. It's not very feasible, right? There are a number of minyanim in UMAN, but they're all part of the Rebbe's Rosh Hashanah.
I want to ask, if the Rebbe is so big, why it wasn't recognized by the tzaddikim to be the biggest tzaddik like Moshe Rabbeinu?
The Rebbe said that there are certain hecholas, certain madregas you can't reach unless there's machlikas. Just like Adam Eitz Hasoda, just like a tree, right? If you want to move it from one place to the next, you make a flood, and the tree can float on the water. So too, the tzaddik, right?
All the biggest tzaddikim, right? They were recognized when they were alive.
And they all had machlokas against them, one way or another. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have korach. Moshe, they were choshid him with Eshes Ish. Moshe Rabbeinu, right? They weren't choshid him. Shimon ben Yochai wasn't just pursued by the Roman government, right? And all the others, Rashi didn't have problems with the Crusaders and whatnot. All the tzaddikim had problems.
Among the Jews.
Along with the Jews, yeah.
What's shot today? You see a lot of tzaddikim going to the Rebbe, but going to Rabbeinu, but not on Rosh Hashanah. During the year, all of a sudden, all the big Rebbe, but they believe. You see that they start.
They believe in the Rebbe, which didn't happen. 50 years ago, it wouldn't have happened.
But no,
50 years ago, it would not have happened. Right? Today, it's happening. Even the Rebbes, all of them, are starting to go to UMAN. Right? They're starting to go. Chernobyl, the Square, there was a Square Messiah to Ukraine a couple of years ago, and there were a few of the Hasidim, they snuck away from their Rebbe's trip to go to Rebbe. Yeah, Minik I was saying to be
I want to ask another question. Vidit Urim and Tefillah.
Yeah.
Is it to the tzaddik or to Hashem?
Only to Hashem.
But Reb Nosson in the Tefillahs, it looks like he's davening to the tzaddik.
In Torah Dalet, in the Kutim Aran, the Rebbe says, now you have to be mitzvah before the Talmud Chacham.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be mitzvah. Doesn't say if he's alive or dead. It says you have to be mitzvah. It says Moshe Rabbeinu was maskir the vidui of Yehuda, right? Which happened to happen a few hundred years before he was born. Right? Doesn't have to be by the life tzaddik. But you shouldn't. Yeah. No, I'm not alive.
But the Rebbe is not alive. Let's say you could be my Rebbe, right?
If I'm dead, maybe.
Oh, the Rebbe, then that would be even better, like you were saying before.
The Rebbe said,
Listen, I told you I have a hearing problem. I can't hear 7 voices.
Come over.
What are you asking?
No, so I'm saying, so it's better in a way for me to go to someone that's alive, no?
No, you might
Why
be
not?
embarrassed. In the Beis Hamikdash, it says, they were packed together. But when they bowed down to his father,
Yeah, but the Gemara says his name.
they were Mustachar and Revochim. Each one had Dalet Amos. Why? So that if the father, the other guy shouldn't hear what he's saying and be embarrassed in front of him. So it's easier with Rabbi Nachman.
Easy to talk to somebody that's not going to Chaim.
Well, if you say something,
you
you want to tell me what's wrong with you and you're not going to feel embarrassed? I don't even want to hear it.
Talk to that Rebbe. Most people a lot of people, not more, I say more, a lot of people, if somebody really is father he has a pocket, he'll tell him anything he asks him, anything he'll do, he'll tell him.
Yeah.
So the same exact thing, it was father Taleb, but the Chassidim was father Taleb, the same thing. That leave the Gneb.
Well, if you don't feel embarrassed, go ahead and do it.
Behind the Rabbeinu, there was really from
It was, the Rebbe said, Father before the Tzaddik.
I mean, today's days, you don't talk.
Well, I got to tell you something. The people who came to the Rebbe to his father didn't have what you and I have. Right? It was a different generation.
No, it was
They had different things in those days.
But the Rebbe said it's going to be like this way. That the others, when you come to me, will be in the other, like the next room. Doesn't that mean
Now, by the caver, yeah.
Doesn't that mean you should talk to him?
Yeah, you should talk to him.
So you should daven.
Yeah. No, talk.
When I daven, you can daven.
Please. You can talk to the Rebbe, tell him whatever you want. And not daven.
Okay, but davening and talking in reality should be the same.
There's a thin line that goes between them. I'll admit that. There's a thin line that goes between talking and davening. But you could say to Rebbe, please help me. I'll tell you something. I mean, I don't like saying things like this publicly, but I'll say it only so that you should understand. In 1974, I went to the Tzion. I had Baruch Hashem Miniyas every step of the way. It was the hardest trip I ever took. There was no permission to go to UMAN, right? And somehow I got permission while I was in Odessa to get to it. I got to the Tzion, I had 1 hour. The Mishnah says, Yesh koine olam b'shorachas. Yeah? I had 1 hour by the Tzion. Before I left the Tzion, I said, Rebbe, you made a promise to me now. I said the Tikkun HaChol, I put aside money for tzedakah, right? So you made me a promise that no matter what happens the rest of my life, no matter what I do, good or otherwise, you're going to be there for me and you're going to help me till the end of time, right? I ask you, please see that I get this chus of doing something for you. Yeah? I didn't pray to him. I had a feeler for 25 years. It was only 25 years later, after I saw Breast of Research coming out into the world and doing what it was doing, that I said, you know, feelers to get answered to. Right? I prayed to Hashem that I should be zocheh to do something.
What is the difference from praying to asking?
Well, I don't know, but I asked. I didn't pray. I say all the time, Hashem, help me. I shouldn't do the wrong thing. When I come to the Tzion, I should say the right thing. I should do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. That's what I do when I come to the
Just
Tzion.
praying with the words, asking or praying.
I don't know. I'm a human being, and I don't know every answer. Most of the stuff tonight, I knew the answers, but I don't know all the answers. I do what I feel is right. I ask Hashem that I should pray tefillah v'sachnunim, not a tefillah v'chinas din, but tefillah v'sachnunim. I should ask and I should say, and when I have something to say to the Rebbe, I say to the Rebbe. That's all. What's going to happen at the end? I'll find out after 120. I'm prepared that when I get up there, they're going to say, who do you think you are? And they're going to kill a sheet and pulse the Nura and all that other stuff that I deserve for who the heck I was. Right? I expect that. But I don't care. I mean, I did, Baruch Hashem, a couple of good things in my life. I did other things, but I did a couple of good things in my life. And I hope that Hashem will have Rahmanus on me. That's all. That's all. That's for Hashem to know and for me to find out.
Yeah, it's really doing it between that tzaddik, not everybody else.
That's all. That's the way life is.
I love this man to show you the way. One of the aspects from it is to show you the way of life. Yeah? How can you take a showing the way of life? Somebody has a question, business, medical, Torah, all these things. How could you be a chus from a Rebbe when the Rebbe is not Ben Chaim? And how he can answer you. So rather to go away some evidence alive in that aspect.
Do you have a mind?
Yeah. I think so.
I hope so. Right? Do you get thoughts?
Yeah.
Where do they come from? That's how the Rebbe directs you. If you are a Torah observant Jew, you get your advice and your thoughts and your way of life is built through the Torah HaKadosh. And because you learn something, it comes to you. You do it this way or that way or whatnot. Oh, is that okay so far? Okay. If you're a regular person, you follow the news, CNN, ABC, MSNBC, right? And those are what help formulate your thoughts and your opinion. That's where you get that from. When you go to the tzaddik, when you study the tzaddik's svarim, you get up in the morning and you have a shaila, daven this way or that way. The Shulchan Aruch has already told you what to do, right? When you study the tzaddik's svarim, you understand a way in life that you could operate, that you could follow through, that you could observe and live your life that way, right? Those machshavos come to you because the Eibishter let you learn this sefer, and the Eibishter was able to take your rotzoin, your desire, and put it into action in such a way that your mind thinks this way, and that's the way you'll act. That's how you go to a tzaddik. You study his svarim, you learn what he says, and that way you know what to do.
Why did Hashem say, you should have a Rebbe? I don't know if
It's a Mishnah, I say look around.
Right, but I don't know Hashem, but it's a Mishnah, so I say look around, meaning ask him, and he'll respond to you. Maybe you should have said, I say look to the Berditchev'r. You should have to the Berditchev'r, I'm finished.
You never had a time in your life when you had a problem, a thought, and a few days later the solution came?
So everything, anybody that's a chusa from a level that's been a Chaim, you should ask him, straight to the Berditchev'r. So the whole aside of Churav.
That's what his point of this is all about.
So the whole Chayas.
No, but I say that Rabbi Nosson writes in the Halachos that the Ika Kabbalah Torah, which is the eitzes, how to follow the Torah, right, can only be with a few people, with the person, the tzaddik, the rav that you speak to, or a few people that you're friendly with, whatever, that you'll be able to get your advice. I say l'charav, you should get somebody you can ask your questions from. Yeah, you need that. But who's the ultimate rav? The ultimate rav, everyone holds is different. Yeah, that's the beauty of Am Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Right? Rashi explains Hashem Shehu Elokeinu Achshov. Right? Who yiyeh Hashem Echad for the whole world in the future. Right? Rabbi Nosson says, imagine that. You'll have like 7 billion people on the planet today. Right? Each one thinks of Hashem in a different way. They have a different perception of Hashem, but he's only one. Right? They have all the different rebbes and all the different ideas and all the different things. Yeah, you ask a question. Eventually, it'll all come back to one source.
Why bless?
Why not? That's up to you. You study the Svarim, see what Sefer speaks to you or not. That's all. I'll tell you a story. I don't know what time. We got that mark, right? Yeah. I can tell you a cute story. Then we'll have mark. I was down in Boca Raton for a Shabbos. There's a guy. I got him to come to UMAN Rosh Hashanah. He invited me down there for a Shabbos. He had 12 people, 6 couples at his house for Shabbos morning. Okay, 6 couples. So We wash for the meal. And one guy starts, he was the assistant rabbi in the Boca Raton synagogue. Now that's a large shul, a few hundred members, right? So he starts off, he says, I don't like these rest of the guys who leave their house Rosh Hashanah with their wives and kids behind. And that's how the meal started, okay? Now, you have to understand, I'm not talking one-on-one. I'm not even talking to a group of men. I'm talking to 6 couples, right? Their wives know nothing about wrestling, whatever. And I have to answer it in a way that he doesn't know what he's talking about, which I did. But it was respectable and with a lot of respect when he's the assistant rabbi in the shul. Okay. He comes back to me with another question, another challenge, and then another challenge, and then another challenge. This went on for 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours during the whole meal, he was constantly attacking me about Breslov, about women, and about there's different things in Breslov. It's okay. Baruch Hashem, I have a witness to this, by the way. If you ever want, I'll put you in touch with it. So that was that. At the end of 2.5 hours, I looked at him, I said, okay, enough. You challenged me for 2.5 hours. I'm gonna now give you a challenge, okay? You challenged me 2.5 hours, I'll give you a challenge now. For the next month, I want you to take a half-hour Mussar Seder. I want 5 svarim from any tzaddik, Chaim, the Vilnagoy, the Mesilas Yesharim, Chabad, any sefer you want, 5 minutes of each sefer every day. And then I want you to take any Rabbi Nachman sefer for the last 5 minutes. Okay? Now I got to tell you something beforehand. Understand, every sefer ever written from Adam Harishon until today screams out Hashem Echad. That's the purpose of the sefer. If it's a Gemara, a Medrash, a Mussar sefer, Shulchan doesn't. It screams out Hashem Echad, right? At the end of the month, I want you to call me and tell me which sefer screamed louder and clearer Hashem Echad. Of the 6 svarim that you're going to be learning every month, every day, tell me which sefer screams out louder Hashem Echad. I guarantee you it'll be the best of the sefer. That's what I told him. I said, if I told. At the end of 2 weeks, my friend who invited me writes me, you remember that Litvan guy at the table who was, I said, yeah. He says, I want you to know that yesterday with Shalosh Shudas,